All right, everybody, welcome back to the Beat Podcast here at Health in Las Vegas. I'm excited to be with Brian Bewley. He's a partner in Life Sciences Health Industry Group at Reed Smith. Brian, such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're a fellow San Diegan.
Yes, I live there, but I'm not from San Diego.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
But I am a fellow San Diegan.
Where are you from originally?
Kansas City area.
All right.
Originally.
Very cool.
Go
Cool.
Chiefs. Yeah.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, look, excited to have you here. I know you guys are doing a lot with health. And so tell us a little bit about the firm and what you guys are up to here.
Yeah. Reed Smith in general it's a large global law firm. We have offices all over the United States, but we have several offices overseas. I'm a partner in our life science health industry group. We go by Lishi, which is technically how we say it.
Okay.
Our life science health industry group is one of the largest groups in the firm. It's an industry group, one of the largest, one of the oldest in the country, actually, as well.
Oh, really?
We have probably close to 100 or more healthcare or life sciences attorney or adjacent to healthcare and life sciences. We do a lot of regulatory counseling with large healthcare companies, mostly in the for-profit space, some in the non-for-profit. We represent a lot of manufacturers, whether it's biotech, med device, pharma manufacturers. We also spend a significant amount of time representing investors who are exclusively investing in healthcare and life sciences. So that's the core of our practice.
I appreciate the breakdown and the segments and the details there. And how's the meeting going for you?
Good. It's been interesting. This is our first year sponsoring health, so it's been somewhat eye-opening for us. It's a great production.
Yeah.
I've been practicing for 21 years. I've been to many conferences. I do a lot of public speaking as well. This is one of the more sophisticated conferences I've been at, and it's truly impressive to see this exhibitor hall and all the exhibits. And I've been fascinated walking around and looking at the new technology and having meetings with companies or investors or that are looking to invest in, and some of the companies that are here representing their products, their care delivery models, and the like. Everything has been, obviously, I don't think it's a surprise. Everything is very technology focused right now because technology is truly changing healthcare and life science at a pace that, frankly, as a lawyer, our laws are not keeping up with. Our current regulatory structure here in the United States in particular is not necessarily keeping up with the advancements in technologies and how they impact healthcare companies, life science companies, those in the tech space that are doing revolutionary things. And in many ways, it's a square peg in a round hole when you look at the advancement of technology and how it's being applied across the healthcare and life sciences industries as compared to how our current system is set up, both from a regulatory perspective, from a legal perspective, and also just with how companies are going to apply some of these technologies and to make their operations more efficient and deliver better care to patients, which is what everybody is striving to do.
Totally. Yeah. And the topics of patents, IP, data rights, right?
Yeah.
With AI, like all this stuff, man, it's a big challenge for a lot of these companies.
Yes, it is. And there's a lot of areas to navigate. You don't have to just, we're not, since I'm more of a healthcare guy and I focus on the healthcare and I don't necessarily focus on intellectual property or licensing issues, but all of those things are at play with these companies. So they have to really navigate a wide array of issues in order to go to market and then find partners to partner with so that those technologies can be applied in real life.
Totally. And thinking about competitive moats, like making sure you're protecting your information, all that stuff.
Yes.
Okay, it's a challenge, right? Like I look at a lot that's going on and I'm like, we need good lawyers to navigate these waters.
That's what we're trying to do. Yes. And like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. This is the most, especially with technology and what's going on, I haven't seen this type of evolution or advancement so quickly as it pertains to healthcare and life science companies in the 21 years that I've been practicing. It really feels like almost overnight in many ways, but lawyers like challenges. And so we're equipped to deal with those challenges. And in particular, our group, myself included, we know and understand the industry. We understand the legal system here in the United States. and we know how to navigate those issues, whether it's for the tech company or whoever they're trying to partner with, or even an investor. And I spend a lot of time, personally, I spend a lot of time working with investors.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, in this space. And for investors, there's a lot of opportunities that are out there, trying to narrow down which opportunities that you want to avail yourself of and invest in, I think is probably first and foremost the question at mind, because there's so many different companies out there that are competing.
What's the risk, right?
Yeah. And so you don't want to invest in a company that ultimately gets lapped by another company. And if you lose your initial investment, because many times these are pretty large investments that private equity investors or venture capitalists are making in these companies. And it's not just here in the United States, it's globally. Last year, for example, I went to Munich, Germany for a private equity conference that's held there that our firm sponsors, Reed Smith, and moderated a panel with European investors. And they're dealing with the same challenges that US-based investors are dealing with, which is which companies do we want to target? Who's going to be leading the pack? Who's going to come out ahead in this kind of race that we're seeing, especially with artificial intelligence and how that's going to be applied? So this really is a global issue. It's not necessarily isolated or unique to the United States in any form or fashion.
Yeah, it's ubiquitous at this point. And so how are investors that Reed Smith advises adapting to changes in capital markets and heightened regulatory scrutiny?
Yeah, I'll speak narrowly to the United States since I'm a lawyer here in the United States. I'm not licensed in foreign jurisdictions. But it's been obviously a challenging marketplace this year in particular, but probably even going back to last year and the year before. There's been a lot of changes, especially this year at the federal level with the new administration, that's been disruptive. I think investors would say the investors we work with and investors in general have said are disruptive, and maybe sideline some of the plans that investors had going into 2025. And I try to stay away from politics as much as possible. But with this administration, private equity firm or venture capitalists or the big banks that are looking to invest, whether they personally voted for President Trump or not, going into 2025, everybody was feeling very optimistic that deal flow was going to be very robust into 2025. That turned out not necessarily to be the case in the first half. I think a lot of the changes that were being made at the federal level really slowed the pace for investors on where they wanted to put their money, because a lot of them are sitting on quite a bit of capital that they want to deploy. And so they were, I think going into the year, investors were really looking forward to a robust market. Turned out not to be the case. I think the tariff, I don't know what do you want to call it, a tariff war or tariff strategy was also very disruptive as well. And investors that were looking to come off the sidelines to deploy all that capital went maybe back into the sidelines, back on the sidelines to see how things would shake out. But we've seen with our investor clients, things have been picking up quite a bit quarter by quarter as we've gotten farther into 2025. And I think 2026 is probably going to be a much more robust year, because I think things are definitely going to calm down. Investors have had to adjust to that. And it's not just the disruption at the federal level with tariffs, the purging of a lot of government employees, especially at agencies that are very involved in oversight of healthcare. So whether it's FDA, HHS in general, that houses FDA, CMS, OIG, there's been a lot of disruption at the agency level. A lot of institutional knowledge has been purged from those organizations. As a result of that, there's a lot of questions in the minds of healthcare companies, life science companies, and investors about what's the future going to look like. For example, with the FDA, it's a necessary component to getting medical devices and drugs approved. Typically, you want companies that have gone through all facets of clinical trials and are ready to get approval for their product and go to market. There's an open-ended question about how long it's going to take to get that FDA approval. And so there's, again, that disruption as well, and trying to understand how we're going to navigate how they're going to navigate the regulatory markets or how they're going to navigate the regulatory regime that's in Washington, D.C. in order to go to market, especially if you're a company that has a new product, whether it's a drug device that would be regulated by the federal government.
Yeah, no, those are great observations. And Are there specific areas Reed Smith's life sciences and healthcare industry group are closely following? And if so, what are those areas? I know we've talked about a few, but any that stand out to you?
Yeah. In addition to, obviously, we're paying attention to what's going on at the federal level. We get questions all the time about what should we expect over the coming weeks, over the coming months. What insights do we have about what's happening within HHS? That's the Department of Health and Human Services. What do you expect? What does Reed Smith expect to see happen, and how quickly? Beyond that, though, where the federal government has, in many ways, especially under this new administration, purged there's been a significant losses of institutional knowledge at the federal level. What we've seen, and it really started even prior to 2025, is the states are starting to pick up a lot of slack, and the states are passing a lot of laws, in particular, that are targeted towards investors, which is unfortunate. I mentioned this already, and I don't like to be repetitive, but I've been doing this for 21 years. And I started my career in the government right out of law school. And the government really doesn't, whether it's federal or state, doesn't necessarily invest in the advancement of healthcare. In many ways, it pays if it's under Medicare or Medicaid, that it's the largest insurance program in the world, but the government's not necessarily doing capital investments to improve or help advance technologies that enhance care delivery models for patients. States are passing laws that are making it much more challenging for investors, especially private equity investors, to invest capital in healthcare companies in particular. My personal opinion is it's unfortunate, because if you're going to be restrictive with private equity or venture capitalists that are looking to invest capital in this space, where's that money going to come from? The states are not going to foot the bill. The federal government's not going to foot the bill. We are constantly navigating a lot of the changes that are happening at the state level. Many states have been passing all these restrictive laws on investments, and our investor clients are having to navigate them.
So what are some examples of what's been coming out, and what states?
Yeah, there's several.
What are the worst states?
Put me on the spot. New York it's some of the bigger states. New York, California.
Texas is pretty good, right? Like it's
a little bit more free market there. You're seeing more challenges in New York, Massachusetts, California, but even other states, like even smaller states as well.
I bet Illinois is pretty bad too.
I don't know if Illinois is as bad as some of the other states. They're all following each other, and the laws that are being passed or being proposed are at different levels.
So, like, what are some an example or two of restrictive things that are?
Well, so examples could be you have to get approval by the states if you're a private equity investor, to put an investment in a healthcare company. You're at the mercy of the state government to get approval, and that approval can take a long time.
I was wondering about that, like timelines.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I can't obviously mention any specific clients, but I have an example of a private equity client that I've been working with for many years that started a process in the state of New York to get approval to acquire a company as a private equity investor. It's a well-capitalized private equity firm, and it took well over 2 years to get final approval, and it literally just came in September.
That is insane.
And I was heavily involved in, frankly, pushing the state government to move the application through so that this private equity firm can complete its investment in this healthcare company. And that's a pretty extreme. 2 years is really extreme. Some states.
What's the logic though? Like, what is the logic there from the state side? Like, just curious. They're probably trying to do good.
Yeah.
Right?
So you use a good word, logic. I don't know if there's logic involved in it. I think a lot of it is political. There's a certain component politically that does not want private capital in healthcare whatsoever, because they think that it will harm the delivery of care, because there's this perception that private capital in healthcare is going to be more focused on profits and less so on actual value to patients. That is a complete misconception. Our firm works with a lot of private equity or venture capital investors, and of course they want a return on their investment. I'm not going to I'm not going to mislead anybody about that. But they do actually care about advancing technologies, making the delivery of healthcare more efficient, more precise, with fewer problems, less or narrower waiting times to see specialists or to get that care. But unfortunately, that message, up until probably recently, hasn't been making its way to the politicians that seem to have negative feelings about private capital in our healthcare system. But thankfully, many of these investor companies, whether it's private equity or big investment banks that have their own funds, have started to do what a lot of other companies in the industry do, which is to start lobbying and getting their message out and showing and demonstrating the value that they're bringing to the system. And we're starting to see that is having some impact with the political components that generally have had a negative view about private capital in healthcare. But in my view, I wish it would have happened probably sooner, because sometimes it takes time. And if you're coming in late in the game to get that message out, you might be digging yourself a little bit out of a bigger hole, because some of these laws have already been passed. And so the only option then is for those states to pass new legislation to pull back on those laws, which is hopefully what we'll see coming in the future.
All right. Well, we have our fingers crossed on that. And in the meantime, we've got you, Brian, to help coach us through some of these rough waters.
Yeah.
Folks, great conversation here with Brian Bewley. He's the partner in Life Sciences Health Industry Group for Reed Smith. Brian, if people want to get in touch, where can they reach out?
Good question. Reed Smith, like I said, is a very large law firm. You can, if you just Google my name. I know I have a very unusual last name, but Reed Smith has a very robust website. I'm based out of our Washington, D.C. office, even though I live in San Diego. I live in San Diego by choice, lifestyle reasons.
Nice. Same here.
But my email address is bbewley@reedsmith.com, and that's BBEWLEY @reedsmith.com. Or you can go to Reed Smith's website, and you can see that our Life Science Health Industry Group has many very talented attorneys in our group, and you can see all of the knowledge capital that we put out about what's going on in the industry. And that's the best way to get in touch with us.
Awesome. Well, there you go, folks. In the show notes, you're going to find Brian's email address, the website to Reed Smith. So make sure to reach out if you have any questions in these trying times of change. Brian, thanks for spending time with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Likewise.